Hello, everybody, and welcome to DM Writer's Room, a show where we demystify the DMing process by coming up with monsters, magic items, and dungeons live. Now, we have made more than our fair share of those things, a few adventures, a couple of attempts at long-form adventures, some of which I thought were very successful, and others, everybody's got to start somewhere. But today, what we are doing is we are continuing to delve into creating a system that is attached to the Forged in the Dark SRD. So the Forged in the Dark SRD is the basis, is sort of what you would call kind of the foundation for Blades in the Dark. Blades in the Dark, a very well-reviewed TTRPG by John Harper and Evil Hat Productions, who make a few things that we like. And funnily enough, Blades in the Dark is considered a Forged in the Dark game because they sort of prioritize that, which I think is really neat. Now, for Forged in the Dark, all you need to do, basically, is say that you are inspired by the games, and to give them their fair credit. And so we don't need to keep any of these mechanics in particular as we continue. Now, you may be asking yourself, watching now or in the future, the game's already there. What are you doing different? Well, that mostly comes from your boy Spencer, who is on the bottom here on YouTube. I don't know where he is on Twitch. Spencer watched Nosferatu, very minor sort of tangential spoilers for Nosferatu, and was very much interested in the way that it and other action movies and kind of like these like monster hunting pseudo-horror action movies do this thing where you have the main group that are trying really hard to save the day, and they clearly are the most likely to succeed. They're the main characters. And then you have the B group who are doing something important but like kind of to the side. And they'll probably all make it, but like one or two of them might die and it'll be sad. Think like the C cast in Mission Impossible, right? All those other people that aren't Tom Cruise. And then you have the bottom of the barrel. You have some group of idiots on a mission that will almost certainly fail. And if they do succeed, it is sort of novel, and it is because one of them survives long enough to succeed. It is not a sort of, we got together! It is much more like, 8 of us went out on those waters. 1 of us came back. Jaws, I think, is a great example of the D team surviving. The main proficient guy beefs it. Spoilers for a 70-year-old movie. The main guy beefs it, and the other 2 are like floating back on a raft, hoping they survive to shore. And that's like, wow, this went really well. Another D team that I can think of, C team, would be not the Punisher, would be Predator. Everybody goes out into the jungle to save those people. Arnold comes back. You are sort of really isolated down to those that survive. Pretty much all of our talking last time amounted to that core decision. Now, when you're playing Blades in the Dark, there are 2 mechanics that we are looking to sort of replace or alter by using those crews and how we visualize those. And those are your ability to resist failures and the ability for the GM to offer you what is called a devil's bargain, where they can offer you a very dire consequence to succeed. The thought is, you could, instead of having a dire consequence, throw your C team into the meat grinder and see who makes it. And if they all fail, you aren't saved, and your character probably is also in trouble. If they do, then you survive, and you have this sort of hardened group of veterans that emerges out on the other side. So today, we are opening up by first, we each are supposed to have brought our favorite part of Blades in the Dark, our favorite mechanic from the Forged in the Dark SRD that we think is really interesting, that is really exciting, and that will lend itself to this game. So we're going to start there, because at this point we're still kind of working on the system, and so we still need to be sort of thinking about some of these outside things. I know that maybe this is not the most exciting or thrill-seeking part, but if we can handle this sort of expeditiously, we can move on to the more fun things of what are the archetypical crews? How do we visualize those other 2 crews working? What do we want to name them? We can get into some more of those after we take a look about what it is about Forged in the Dark that we think fits the system really well. Did anybody have anything they wanted to go first with? Or I can go first to sort of give an example, and then we can kick on after that.
I have 2 things, so I'll go first.
Okay.
One is not a mechanic. The first is what I think could be a fun name for our game here. Feel free to nix it. It's not a darling. We can kill it.
Well, that's not how the expression goes.
Yeah, kill your darlings. I'm willing to kill it. In the Dark is sort of the naming convention. There's Blades in the Dark. There's a bunch of other, Forged in the Dark games that are blank in the dark. I looked it up. I couldn't find anything. I think Tales in the Dark would be pretty fitting, given sort of the cinematic storytelling game that we're going for. And leaving in the dark, I think, lends itself to sort of that horror monster hunting genre that we're angling for, and I think could be fun. So Tales in the Dark is my name pitch.
I like it. The other big one that I can think of is like Scum and Villainy. It's the other big one that I've heard a lot about. If I was to offer anything, I think Tales in the Dark is really good. I immediately want to switch to Tales of the Dark. Tales of the Dark, but Tales in the Dark is also very good, and I think that it is referential to the original. I could be happy in either direction.
Fair enough.
So you are sort of visualizing, so that kind of leans us a little bit away from the like hyper camera movie based concept we were rocking with last time, and a little bit closer to like a book, to like a narrative, a little closer to Dracula, a little further from Nosferatu kind of.
Yeah, I think that it would still work with sort of the hyper cuts. It would just be a la like chapter ends. I just like the name Tales in the Dark more than anything.
Now I gotta say, I do very much enjoy, instead of having scores, having chapters. Because in Blades in the Dark, it's the score. If it was instead the chapter.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Who said that? That's pretty good. That's pretty good. All right. The chapter. Oh, goodness gracious. We could call the C Team Interludes.
Yeah.
Then I've got to stick $50 in an envelope and send it to Brandon Sanderson, though, and I don't know how I feel about that. He's got enough money. All right. Cool. So that's the title that you came up with. I like it. I would maybe push towards Tales of, but I could be very happy with Tales in all the same. What is the mechanic that you brought?
The mechanic that I think we can't live without is heat. For those who don't know, in Forged in the Dark, yeah, heat. We want warmth. No, in the game, your heist crew gathers and builds heat as they accomplish their jobs. Typically, because they are doing something loud or boisterous, or they're trying to gain heat for some reason. Essentially, it is the wanted level of you in the area you're in, and that can be with the other gangs and heist crews. It can be with the law or whatever other governmental body you have in the game. But for us, my thought is the heat is instead the eyes of the beast, right? You are getting its attention by doing these things. Completing these chapters makes it look at you more, and so as you build the heat level, by doing things that are really big, it's going to come after you more. If you lay low for a while, it'll be distracted and go do other things. And
so rather than having usually it is kind of the government of the city is usually what is up at the top of the pyramid. You see your monster or whatever it is the thing that is up there. This creature that you are slowly working on building your way to. I think that's really interesting. It also encourages a lot of the same things that you get from heat, which, for those of you who don't know, you get things like entanglements where people can be, in Blades in the Dark, they can be arrested. They can be put on demonic notice, which is a demon notices them and begins to make offers to them and not leave them alone. They can be caught and interrogated, and then they have to choose to give up secrets or take harm because they are roughed up by the police. So I think you could definitely slant that in a way that I think would be very interesting. All right, cool.
And there's a follow-up on that, which is incarceration is the only way to clear your wanted level. So when you get up to a certain point, and my idea is that would be like sacrifice. Somebody in the group has to die, or a close bond or ally or something needs to be in-universe sacrificed. Functionally. You don't have to slit their throat or something, but the monster will get them.
Oh, that's interesting. I like that because there is sort of the inevitable character that does not quite make it to the end that inspires everybody else. Okay. I like it. All right, I'm going to go up next with mine from the Forged in the Dark SRD. The one that I cannot live without, specifically because of all of the time tension that we've talked about, is progress clocks. I think that to make our game really get up and go and stay, because we sort of worried a lot about how timely it was going to be and how much time it might take to do these non sequiturs. I think progress clocks are going to be the real center to that. And specifically, the A team, B team, and C team having access to different versions of the progress clock. So in Forged in the Dark, progress clocks are basically a way for the GM and the players to keep track of a developing situation. So you break into a large manor house and you draw a circle that is split into 6 parts. And anytime the players mess something up or draw attention, you fill in a circle. When the 6th circle is filled in, the guards are called and this entire thing is going to break bad and get much worse. And I kind of like the idea that maybe the C team only has access to 2 and 3 piece clocks. Like that is the highest they go, which for the record is lower than Blades in the Dark ever goes. I think Blades in the Dark stops at 4. The next team up could do like 3-4 segment clocks, and then the normal team has access to sort of the normal spread. I just think that would be an interesting way to keep time pressure and to make it so that when the C team takes over, you don't get lost in the sauce and play as them for 2 hours. It's like, no, they have 4 chances, and you are trying to spin a narrative as fast as you possibly can.
I mean, I love it. Because I'm picturing, like, the A team goes and one of them alerts the town guard to something happening, like the captain of the guard, and he says, I'll look into this. And then the militia, like the group of 10 guys in that town, becomes the C team. They go and knock on the door. The monster answers, and they have to do the whole thing within like 30 seconds. Maybe they get a lucky shot off. And now the monster's weakened. God, I love the idea of this game. I'm really enjoying it. Anyway, yes.
All right. Michael, what is your Forged in the Dark mechanic?
I think a cool mechanic, and I think it's something that's good in a lot of games. It's not exactly this mechanic, but it's close enough. But heritages, and how different heritages base your character around. That, and like you have this heritage, so your stats are this way, or in this sort of general way. I think we could change that in a fun way of like kind of not pigeonholing, but giving something to model it off of with our different not subclasses, but our different categories of characters. Because like I was thinking, like researchers is pretty broad. You can have different types of research. You can have your man in the chair, your Indiana Jones researcher, your paleontologist, stuff like that.
So you're talking backgrounds.
Yeah, it's not a heritage, but a background.
No, I think that so Blades in the Dark has heritages and backgrounds. I think that, Michael, what you're really landing on is, so we would basically just swap the order. So Blades in the Dark sets it up with heritage first, because Blades in the Dark is largely built off of this city called Duskfall that is really kind of the center of what of the world of that game. In our case, we aren't doing that. A lot of the people that play this game, I assume, are going to be British, or are going to be during the time of the East India Company somewhere else in the world, or trying to, I don't know, kill vampires out on the Silk Road or what have you. So moving heritage below background and making it like current, like specialty, something that is a little bit beyond the playbook, right? The playbook is general. The playbook would be something like researchers, and then it's okay. What is your specialty within that? Like, what is like the specific thing you do? So I like that because it's less general than the playbooks that are like, I'm a cutter, and instead it's like, I work for this crew and this is the thing I do that relates to that role. I think would be helpful, especially because we've already said we don't want full playbooks for the other groups. I think shorthanding in that way is going to be really helpful.
Yeah, I think it'd be funny to have like we came with three men in the chair, helper researchers, and it's like, we need an Indiana Jones guy. I'm sorry, you men in the chairs. Good luck.
It's going to be funny when it's like, well, I'm an orthopedic surgeon, and it's like, well, I'm a heart surgeon. It's like, oh no, what do we do? Yeah.
Okay. I think that is solid. All right, so basically, we need to now take a look at the system itself, right? So we've talked about this a little bit and the things that are different. So we know we want some version of the crew. It's just we then want there to be these sort of 2 versions that exist below that are a little simpler to create. And likewise, we know we want playbooks, and then we want even more pared down versions of those. I think that all works. So now the question becomes, when you are playing this game, how similar to the rhythm that Blades in the Dark provides are we trying to go for here, right? So when I look at the build here, the game is Blades in the Dark is a game about a group of daring characters building an enterprising crew. We play to find out if the fledgling crew can thrive amidst the teeming threats that surround it. Obviously, our game would be in Tales in the Dark, you play a group of daring characters trying to take on a supernatural threat. We play to find out if that band of adventurers can thrive and slay the beast before they are killed for their meddling, right? I think that's a pretty clear parallel with enough difference to sort of merit its own existence, which I think is obviously the most important thing. If at any moment you're like, wait a minute, did we just make Blades in the Dark again? Go play Blades in the Dark with your friends. If I continue to look down, right, Blades in the Dark, it is meant to give off the effect of being an episode of a television show. So when you play Blades in the Dark, you and your crew very briefly set up what you are about to try to do. You do a very little bit of planning, almost none, right? It frames it as this like brief scene of you lamenting the dangers you're about to get in, looking at scrawled maps, maybe making a few getting an idea of what kind of plan you are about to execute, some detail that's going to help you get in, and then figuring out what the advantages and disadvantages are and trying to survive. So for example, you would say, us and our crew have decided that this rival gang, we want to break into their HQ and steal a contract, like this lucrative contract that they have, and burn it. That way they have no proof that they have the contract. We can undercut them and, we'll get the money. Then you would negotiate, like, how difficult does that seem like it is? How much can we believably know about them? Maybe do a little setup. And then you jump in instantly. You don't plan out the place. You don't go get blueprints. You just start playing. You roll to see what situation you're in, and then you very quickly narrate it. So you basically take this roll, and if you roll poorly, you describe, like, you are all shut in a closet, there is banging on the door, and the wood is starting to splinter. We start with the party screwed, busted, and needing to figure out what to do. Or they could roll very well, and you could be like, it's the middle of the night, a top window opens into the inside of this place, and you all slip through completely unheard. Then as the party is making their way through, they try to do things like break into doors and go around secret entrances. One of them says, like, I want to find a secret way into the vault. The keeper says, how do you, not the keeper, whatever it is, says, how do you want to do that? And then they could do something that's called flashbacks. You could spend stress and you could say, we cut back and I lay a blueprint out on the table in front of everyone. And basically it shifts back to before everything began. And instead of doing that in advance, you do that during the heist. You say, I'm going to burn a flashback. We go back in time. I lay out a blueprint and I show that there's a secret ventilation shaft into the vault. And then we look over and in the stone, we can see a vent and I rip it out of the wall. And like they start to go down that path. That is how Blades in the Dark is meant to function. To take all of that pre-work that can bog a game down and push it into the action. So the question is, how much of that flow are we wanting to keep? How much of that do we think is essential to what is happening here? And how much of that are we not as attached to? Do we still want all of that planning to happen concurrently? That kind of heist movie cutaway feel? Or because we're leaning into this kind of monster hunting element, most of that planning happens before in those films, and in fact would sort of fill the bulk of the chapters that we would play through. So do we like the idea of shifting that to be punchier and sticking to this system, or did we want to slow that down a little bit and see if that feels better or worse?
It's hard. I think that messing with that too much sort of pulls away from it being forged in the dark. That's like an integral mechanic. And my real fear is if we get too deep into planning and research and everything else, it will limit the usefulness of the B and C team. if the A team is like, oh, we're going to talk this out, we're going to go find the plans and do these things, suddenly the B team's usefulness is cut off at the knee. I don't know. I think I would like a little bit more pre-plan than Blades in the Dark has. I would include what I would call like vignettes. So that would be the characters doing like brief moments where they're talking with other NPCs, meeting with the town guard, stuff like that, to sow the seeds of the B and C team are going to be going to do these things, roughly. So there'd be more things going on beforehand, but it isn't like, and now we're going to go investigate and find the scroll and then go into this.
So in Blades in the Dark, basically what you do is you're choosing the kind of plan you have, you're providing the detail that plan tells you that you're missing, and then you're getting up and going. And what you visualize instead, it sounds like then, is each member of the team does something to set you up for success. There's probably some role attached to that, and then we kick things off. So basically we're taking the engagement role and expanding on that enough that it feels a little bit more meaty, that it feels like you have a little bit more influence over it. I do agree with you. As somebody who's played Blades in the Dark and run Blades in the Dark before, I often find that the players are kind of hungry to plan at the beginning, and it's really hard for them to cut it. Now, some people would say that is something you should just embrace to enjoy the system, but I do think it ignores how satisfying it can be to like find the secret, to find the thing that is going to help you do it, not because you come up with it as an ad-lib later, but because in the moment you sort of rolled to make it happen. Okay, so we want to do a little bit more pre-planning, maybe one prep per character, but nothing too extreme. And it also doesn't need to be something you do, right? In these early moments when stakes are low, you can say, I want, on mine, the C team does do something successful before everything is chaotic. Like, we see them pull off this mission. Maybe that is what makes them so overconfident to try whatever foolish endeavor they try next. Maybe the B team does provide you with a single silver bullet with which to kill the evil werewolf baron Victor von Glauer, or whatever this dude's name is. And, we see that scene play out. They rolled poorly, so it's literally one silver bullet. Good luck. But they did do something, versus if it's maybe something you do by yourself. Okay, I think that makes a lot of sense. But beyond that, we're trying to keep things mostly the same, right? You're seeding some details about the world, but everything else happens very much in the moment.
Precisely.
Okay.
One thing to add.
Yes.
I saw a name for our DM.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
It's a TT, a tale teller.
The tale teller. Hell yeah.
I'll note it.
I was going to add, I agree with what you're saying. I think that we want this to be a faster paced kind of game.
Yeah, we can go for some of the structure that is enjoyable that comes with like the long book about a monster is a little more satisfying than the TV episode a la Supernatural about one. But that doesn't mean that we need to give in to being like, and the first chapter is 149 pages. We can sort of disengage from that a little bit. Okay, cool.
It's also important, I will, this is the last thing I'll say before we move on to the next thing, but I think it's important to remember that each mission isn't inherently going to be, and now we're going to go fight the monster. Early on, it's going to be like, we need to get into the castle. The B team has found the secret attic or cellar through the plans, and the C team went in and busted the front gate open. So now the A team can sneak into the castle to find some stuff, and then get out of there. That chapter's done. And then the second chapter is going to be some other random bullshit they have to solve before eventually, like, the fifth chapter is, we're going to go fight the thing. So there is going to be discovery and things changing and, items being located throughout. Because each chapter isn't inherently like, and now we're going to be in the mouth of the belly of the whale fighting the beast. It's going to be, no, later on you're going to do that.
Yeah, I mean, let's take like major, like, popular fiction in that same vein. Let's just take Dracula, right? Arc 1 of Dracula is our session 0 where we meet everybody and what's his name gets out of the castle. Session 2, our first real session, is that one dude's wife dying, and then they have to go kill her again. The next one is them chasing the Count halfway across the country while Mina has visions. Number 3 is them breaking into that church and finding out his scheme. And then number 4 is them finding out like how that all pans out, attacking and disrupting his plan. And then our final episode is them going back to his castle to interrupt him. I think it's a pretty perfect thing that naturally they do, because you can't fight Dracula in the first 10 pages of your book. You need to do it. You need to do it at the end. You just do.
Yeah.
So I think that it kind of lends itself to that. I think that also what that gives me is something that bothers me the most about Blades in the Dark, which is a game that I love and that I've played many times, but you got to note the criticisms that are there. This game really does something that I don't enjoy that is really popular in new wave TTRPGs, which is this is the long list of things that the players get to do to make their jobs easier. And the DM gets to do everything else with no guidance from us. And it's like...
Yeah.
Okay. It's like, no, but so what does the DM do? They come up with all of the characters suddenly in the minute along with their names, and we recommend they look up the blueprints to random buildings, because everybody can read blueprints, and that's how they run it. And every time I read that, I get one of my hairs turns gray. So what I like about that is that we can also set up, like, when you're the GM for this game, talk to the players about what they want to do, and then make the monster, make their plan. What are they, like, what is their evil scheme? And you can sort of seed some stuff ahead of time without having to do everything totally improv in the moment. Now, I wouldn't go so far as to say, like, this dude has an evil plan in this building as much. Maybe some of that, because we like that kind of, like, neighborhood system where you keep track of, like, what your territory as it expands. But for the most part, it's like, we know the bad guy has these 5 lieutenants. Anytime the players break into somewhere, there's a chance that they run into one of those 5 lieutenants without you necessarily needing to prescribe ahead of time which it is.
And I'll move on from that, but I do like the idea of breaking it down into chapters. This chapter is, we escape the castle. We kill this guy's new vampire wife. We go onto a big train to stop Dracula. Like, it just naturally works.
Yeah, it has a little bit of a more even flow forwards, which I think is a really good thing. Okay, so that pushes us out of the big scale. So now we know a little bit more about what we want this game to feel like. And so now we get down to the real core mechanic. When does a B team scene play, and when does a C team scene play, right? The most immediate thing that emerges from the system is that we would, in moments where they would fail, but not catastrophically, the B team would come into play, right? That would be the same as like resisting some harm by spending stress and risking trauma. The C team would be involved when something lethal was going to happen, when a character was going to die, when a catastrophic failure was going to occur. That's the most like evident. Is there any other way we wanted that to work? What's up, Michael?
We could make it, it'd be a little easier, could be funnier, could be not as good. May it be it is an order. First time you do it is Team B. Next time you flashback, it has to be Team C, and flip flop like that. And it's like, sadly, you got the Team C. You got screwed. You are doing Team B, you got screwed. You're on lethal duty right now.
Now, I like the sort of bones of it. I do think that Team C going more than a couple of times in an arc won't make sense, because they're being so violently thrown into the meat grinder that if it flip-flops that often, I'm worried about the reality.
I think my solution to try to like integrate the two ideas would be, you have Team B and you have Team C. Team B has a smaller effect on what is happening, but you can use Team B as much as you want. You can only use Team C once.
Yeah.
And so if you use Team C, if you say, all right, Team C goes on their suicide mission. They go in, they barely survive, one of your character lives because of what they do. If you get into another lethal situation, the Team B needs to put their lives on the line. Like that, they basically have to go on their own foolish mission that they are much less likely to survive. And that is sort of a consequence. So I like the idea that you are building up your scientist or whatever Team B is, right? You are developing them. The C team doesn't level up. The C team just survives or doesn't. So as Team B is getting better, you're going to have these moments where it's like, all right, Team B did some stuff for us, great. Team C did something, they saved, like, Nick's character. Nick's character's still alive, great. A couple of rolls later, Stefan's character fails an exposed roll. And everybody looks at their very souped-up B team that they have spent 3 chapters turning into, like, hyper-competent, and they're like, how much do you like your character, Stefan? Because you need to put
my
this.
My researcher rolls up with his cane and starts beating the shit out of Dracula.
Yeah, exactly.
To save Stefan's character.
So I think that might be kind of fun. Is you have this one ripcord, and then the next time you reach out to pull it, you need to sacrifice something that matters more.
I like it. The other one that I was gonna pitch. Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's once per mission, once per arc,
once per chapter,
probably.
Chapter,
which is 1 to 3 sessions.
Okay,
maybe. It should be 1 session, I think.
So yeah, by Blades in the Dark, it should be 1 session per chapter, which means you would be dealing with one monster for only like, maybe 6 or 7 chapters, unless you wanted to play a longer game. Now, you could pivot that and say a chapter is, a chapter is 3 or something like that sessions where you are taking care of smaller objectives. I think the strongest, but also the one that would... This is one of those hard moments. We're trying to describe game design here. There's often bold and exciting choices that you can make that also make people less likely to play your game. And that's always tough. With a one-page RPG, which is what we usually come up with here, that's really easy. I don't really care if everybody plays The Last Thanksgiving. I liked our idea. I thought it was really fun. I thought it was stupid that you threw eggs at each other, and I didn't really care to fix it. In a game like this, where you're hoping that a larger audience plays it and sticks with it, it can be a little scarier to make the big swing of saying, like, nope, 1 chapter, 1 session, your campaign is like 8 chapters, it's like 8 sessions, and then you gotta roll again and play again, if you wanted to do it. It can be really kind of scary to make that choice, but I do think it is the right one, because players can always just take these rules and play 5 sessions. That's something that everybody does with a lot of different games, right? They go, well, we did it with Monster of the Week. If you go watch The Prince of Charming, a 9-episode series that Spencer keepered on our channel here, that's not how that game is meant to be played. You are supposed to fight. You're supposed to fight and kill the monster in a single session. Yeah, we played for 9 sessions, and we didn't kill the monster until the end. Right? So I think we need to leave that choice to other people. So let's say definitively, 1 chapter is 1 session, and each session you have a C team that is there to try to pick up the pieces. Yeah, so perfect. The A team can employ the B team or the C team, but if the C team goes down, the B team moves down. And the next time something lethal happens, you need to either let that player die or kick it up to B team. So now my question is, when do we trigger those 2? Does the B team just resolve failures? Do they give you advantages? Because we keep talking about them as the scientist that could develop bullets that's like Q from 007. Or are they only responding to failures? And then when does...
only responding to failures.
Okay. So the B team is there to compensate for failing. So they are essentially taking the role of, what is it called in this one? Resistance roles, which is insight, prowess, or resolve made to allow you to take stress to survive. We will probably still have some version of the stress mechanic. I think that makes perfect sense. But
mental acuity or something.
Yes, exactly. So then the B team plays a short thing to describe how it is different, and that gets you the little cutback where you're as your character falls down a tall wall and is falling to the bushes, you say, I cut to the B team, and we see them going on a little adventure, and at the end they hand a grappling hook to your character that they pull out and shoot up at a banister and save themselves at the last minute. Again, why we were like, maybe this game we're like, a session of this game does take 4 hours. Spend aside that time. Because maybe the B teams are like 5 or 10 minutes. The C teams, depends on how good they do, I guess. But either way, it is a little bit of a time sink. So the B team compensates for failures. What does the C team compensate for that?
Devil's bargain, baby. We don't have any mechanics for a devil's bargain right now.
Sure.
So I think, things are looking real bad. You say we're sending in the small guns, I suppose, and they're going to kind of give us a get-out-of-jail-free card. Maybe they all get killed, but maybe my character lives.
Now, let me find... Okay. So Devil's Bargain, if you go to the... if you are following along with the SRD for Forged in the Dark up in front of you, which I suppose would be a pretty good way to do it.
I'll copy and paste it into our chat right now, actually.
Yeah, so if we go into the basics, and then we kick down to Action Roll, we can see that between steps 5 and 6, we find the Devil's Bargain. I'm just going to read right off of this. PCs in Blades are reckless scoundrels addicted to destructive vices. So in our case, the PCs in Tales are reckless adventurers committed to their quest at all costs. They don't always act in their best interests. To reflect this, the GM or any other player can offer you a bonus die if you accept a Devil's Bargain. Common Devil's Bargains include collateral damage, sacrifice, betraying a friend, offending or angering somebody, etc., etc. It is always a free choice. If you don't like it, you don't have to take it. So that's interesting. So you're viewing it more as like a bonus? Like you toss them in the fire as a kind of like to get the edge?
Get out of jail free card. Yeah. It could either be get the edge, or it can be if they succeed, you succeed.
Oh, okay. So you're kind of reimagining the Devil's Bargain as something.
It's just...
So instead of being between steps 5 and 6, for you, a Devil's Bargain is all the way at the bottom. It is like you. All right, let's chat this out. It feels too similar to what the B team does.
True.
How do we make
That's
it different? Because right now it is identical. It is we fail, and the C team gets to do it, and if they succeed, we succeed. But it sounds like that's what the B team does right now. Maybe the difference is the B team mitigates harm, right? The B team just makes it so that instead of something going poorly, it goes just all right. Maybe if the C team succeeds, it is a full-blown success, and that is the difference. Is there anything else we can do to like hype up the stakes on that a little bit?
I think make the C team, because we can use it whenever. It's not when they succeed, we succeed. B team just gives us an edge. They give us a bonus die. Or C team, they succeed, we succeed.
Yeah.
So basically,
that would give a reason for the one-time use per arc, where it's like, no, you succeed when they do this thing.
So the B team would become our sort of Devil's Bargain.
Yeah.
Is that what I'm getting?
Yeah, I think so.
And we can, if we wanted, we could amp C team up with something else too, because there's that one-time use thing. I don't know what we would do, but I'm open to extra little tidbits.
I think what we're mainly doing is we're making it a little bit less about accruing stress over time and giving into your vices, which makes sense because that doesn't really fit our game very well. We're moving off of that, and instead, rather than thinking so much about it in terms of stress and vices, thinking about it in terms of collateral damage. How controlled do you keep what is happening? You know what I mean? And so I think that is a fair thing, rather than building stress, although I do think we should still have some kind of stress mechanic. Instead, you are losing friends and allies.
Yeah.
Right? And now if a player wants to play a cold-hearted version of this, where they're like, I send the C team, and they choose to not have their character react, then I don't know, man. Go play Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. I can't help you.
I think
I need to say this before I get. I'm sorry. The downtime activity, being make allies, like find new friends, is pretty solid. So instead of like, oh, I need to get my mental stress right, I need to go drink alcohol for my vice or whatever it is that the game entails. Instead, it is one of them is I'm going to go talk to the people in town and see if I can get people that will help us. Get a new C team. Get a new member of the B team. So that way, when you burn those allies, you can get them back through Vice.
So in Chapter 2, you find out that your major villain is in the area because somebody's son has gone missing. During your downtime, we see you outside their house knocking on the door. You talk to the parent, you talk to the mom, and she goes and gets a double-barrel shotgun out of the back of a closet, and we sort of kick back into that. Okay, I think that's interesting. So rather than accruing, spending, and trying to get back your stress, you are accruing, spending, and trying to get back your allies as you try to work together to fight this threat that you cannot fight alone.
If I can add a little bit to it too, I think we can still have a stress mechanic too. And it's not like emotional stress. It'd be like a team stress sort of thing. If you're burning through members, there's a stress on your team. Your team is not really viewed as a group that people want to join. It can be
your
harder.
Cohesion level. Yeah.
Can I make a pitch for instead of stress, we have hope?
Sure.
Yeah, when you become hopeless, nobody's going to join your
team. And hopeless. Wait. So in Blades in the Dark, you can take a bunch of different like playbook abilities and team abilities. And one of the team abilities is things like if you are assassins, you can take it so that like you don't gain extra stress for killing people. It would be really fun if one of the abilities you could take is hopeless.
Yeah.
And like the penalties you get for having no hope go down a lot because your crew just embraces the death march.
You're all martyrs. It's like we're doing this because somebody has to do it. None of us are getting out of here alive. Yeah, it's sick.
Or maybe hopeless is like a condition basically that you can get. I don't know, but I like that. Okay, so instead of stress, you have like some version of hope, and your allies can kind of gird you against that. It's harder to get allies if your hope is lower. It's like harder to pull people in, or maybe different kinds. Maybe you need to only target martyrs, and I like the idea that martyrs are just less likely to survive the adventure. They are sort of a little bit more foolhardy, a little bit more akin to sort of sacrifice themselves at kind of the drop of a hat. Okay, so then it sounds like if we were playing this game, we would say, if I was our tale teller, I would say, all right, Michael and Spencer's characters, like, what are you trying to do next to disrupt the plans of, the great werewolf count? And you guys would say, we're going to go to this place. This is the thing we want to do. We heard about it last adventure. We're going to try to like cut off that plan that we have begun to discover. We want to find out more and then try to interrupt it. And I'd say, okay, great. And then each of you would roll to try to set things up, and that would help me set your position. And then we would dive into the game. You'd play for a little bit, you'd hit a hard challenge, and you'd say, all right, I'm going to use the B team, I'm going to make a devil's bargain. We're going to spend some hope, get into a little bit of a dire strait. The B team will have done some work. You describe that scene, you make some rolls to see how effective they were. So instead of just getting +1 die, maybe you could get +1 or +2 or +3 dice, depending on how well they do. We cut forward 20 or 30 minutes later, and there is a, like, blanky were-jaguar over the top of a table that you are hiding under, clawing its way through the top. And we cut to the C team. And the C team is halfway across the city, breaking into the Jaguar Duke's house. And off in the distance, one lone living guy reaches up and pulls an alarm as a spear sticks through his back. And pulls up and out. The alarm goes off. The Jaguar like turns and flees off into the night. We cut forward another 20 minutes, and you're in a carriage, and that same Jaguar's claws are like raking through the top, and you're like, what do we do? And then we see one of our scientists like running across a rooftop with a knife, like leaping onto the carriage, destined for death because you had to burn your B team to sort of fill in what the C team normally does.
Yep. 100%. I feel like that's sort of the flow of the game.
Okay.
We did get a comment from James. Shout out, James. What up?
Hey, James.
What about a, quote, thwart mechanic? A player or team can do something to sabotage one of the other teams or players to gain like a tenacity die at the expense of the other team or player losing some of their hope. So you're building stress by doing which kind of works with the group cohesion collateral damage thing where it's like I'm gonna fuck that guy over, so I get out of the situation, but it is gonna hurt the team that I did this thing. It fits in the horror movie dynamic.
So my question is, is that the horror movie maneuver of like I trip him so that he gets the hit, or is it you narrate why their situation gets more dire? So is it something where you literally betray them, or is it something where you say like, and then the door opens and like 2 other big dudes show up, and so you basically like inflict increasingly bad situations on the C or B team to buff yourself?
That's hard.
You could offer both. It sounds like maybe in a grittier, more horror-inspired game, you betray them, like you take a revolver.
You lock the door.
Yeah, you go, we need a distraction. You look at the others and turn and lock the door that they just walked out of so that they can't come back. And everybody, like, casts their eyes to the ground and you burn 2 points of hope. And identical situation in a less horror game. You describe as the door shuts and they run in and a bar is slammed from the other side that neither of you could see. You fill 2 points of hope. And it's just sort of narrated in a different way.
Yeah, I think that's perfect. We put that in as an optional rule. If you're going for like Mork Borg in the dark, you're really fucking up your teammates.
But it makes perfect sense, especially in Blades in the Dark, because we already have a mechanic related to that in regards to effect. You set your position and effect in the game, and one of the things you can do is trade position for effect. You can say, I want to put myself in a worse position to be more successful. The mechanic that I like about this is just saying, can I put those guys in a worse position?
Yeah.
Because at least while I've played this game before, the thing is you're supposed to play your character like a stolen car, but a lot of people get very precious with their characters, and so they never do things like trading position for effect. Giving them this like ragtag band to do that to, I think will make more people do it in a way that I think is really fun, to sort of let them push more onto this team, with the knowledge though that if the C team completely fails, they don't save you.
Yeah,
it doesn't work. It's not just an automatic success. Like, they do still need to succeed somewhat. Mm-hmm. It's just, I think for them, it's going to be some version of like, on a failure, they fail and they don't help you. On a mixed success, they fail and they help you. On a success, some of them live and they help you. That's the best case scenario.
Yeah.
I love the idea that in Dracula, Quincy Morris was on the C team and managed to just claw his way up and then still died. Yeah. Oh, wait. All right. A pitch for down the road. We talked about C team members, if they survive, being able to join the A team or retire, basically. Mm-hmm. If they join the A team, I think they should have to take an ability called, like, ill-fated.
Ooh, like an additional ability? Yeah.
Where they're much more likely to die, but when they do, it, like, generates some positive. When you die, instead of losing hope, the party gains hope as you give them inspirational words on your way out or something.
Or, like, they gain hope. What do you do to give them that hope? And they can narrate, like, I show that the monster can bleed. Like, some shit like that. Yeah.
Okay.
That goes down real smooth.
There we go. I'll make a little note of, like, C team upgrades. Can die and add hope or something like that.
And we're getting through a lot of these mechanics at this point.
I would like to say specifically what this is making me think of, to reference Predator again, is the scene where the, like, I can't remember his name in the movie. The, like, bandana guy. I can't remember his name in it. He's like the bandana tracker guy. Turns and he's like, you guys go on. And he, like, cuts his chest and, like, and turns and fights the Predator for, like, 3 seconds. I think that's a great example of, like, inspire hope as you die.
Yeah.
I land them? No.
That's all right. We'll find it.
It's all good. Later.
So, with that out of the way, I mean, number one, we actually could do like a very no abilities, cheap and dirty playtest of this right now and sort of see how we're going. Now, We have like 29 minutes left because we usually run from about 7:30 to about 9:30. Sorry, to about 9. Whoopsie.
Yeah.
From 7:30 to about 9 on this show. That gives us a little bit of time here. What direction did we think that we wanted to sort of tilt ourselves down next? Is there another direction that we wanted to head in? So obviously the biggest lift that is left is to figure out how does building these crews work? What do those sort of like crew playbooks work is a big lift that we have left. Outside of that, I see a big patch in downtime that we really can't do anything with, which is payoff and vice. Vice we've covered a little bit, right? It's making allies, but the payoff system and the entire coin and spending system and like vault, we aren't really well set up to do anything with.
No.
So I'm curious if there's some way we can slant that as well. So those are the two big areas I see that need a lot of work. Beyond that, we do have some choices to make. Is this game by default magical? Because the other thing that we do is actually, I have to take that back. Well, it'll be good to come up with these things at the same time. We do need to come up with our 12 actions. And one of them is attune, which just means you do magic.
Yeah, talk to ghosts.
I would like to chalk that up as, I regret to say, another habit of New Wave TTRPGs that I do not like, which is one of your stats is all magic.
Magic, baby.
One of your stats is anything related to magic, and it's the same for everyone, is one that I'm always like, all right, whatever. So, okay, is there any of those directions that kind of interest you, or you think would be a little bit more exciting for your character?
Let's stick mechanics, so that way next session we can talk about playbooks and all that. So, gold payoff. I could see influence being a thing you're building. Word of your actions is getting out. People that know that this monster exists are hearing about it. So you're building up that sphere of influence a la gang territory in Forged in the Dark.
The character is Billy Soul in Predator.
Oh yeah,
Billy Soul.
Billy. So that's what I would see being the trade-off. Payoff, you're not breaking into Dracula's castle for his goblets. It would be kind of funny if you did, but we're not really worried about that. This is a narrative game. It's not about the heist. So instead, you are building reputation. You're getting rep for doing these things for anybody in the know. And then there's building the allies. But the rep probably gets you some stuff. We'd have to kind of chat that out. What your built reputation does fundamentally.
I think a cool system we could do is with certain thresholds of influence, you get favors.
Ooh, instead of allies, there's like people you can pull upon, people to talk with. Yeah, that's cool. I like that.
You have an influence level of 6, so you can do 4 favors for this arch or something like that.
And that could come up in the pre-chapter, like, vignettes, where it's like, I'm calling in a favor from our sphere of influence to get us passage on the train that we're going to need to get to.
You know what?
That way you do it early.
You know what I like that we could either tie that to or name that after is winning over the authorities. I think is always like a huge theme of these of this kind of story, right? Of these tales in the dark, is that we need to convince the police commissioner, because the police commissioner doesn't believe you for the first 2/3 and gets people
thinks
killed
one of you is
doing
the
it.
killer,
Yeah,
is gonna arrest you,
and then realizes at the end, and that's when everything gets a little bit easier. So either I think that should be one of the things it influences, or maybe we could base it around believability, clout. I don't know. Whatever that is.
I think that's perfect. So yeah, reputation. And one of the reputation metrics you can take is win over the authorities. There's probably like win over the authorities, get the rich on your side, commune with the poor. Like there's probably different spheres of influence that you can inhabit based on the things you're doing. And they give you different benefits.
This is gonna be,
even if it's just narrative benefits.
So I think what we're gonna end up having to do a little bit of is we are gonna have to kind of collapse down some of what is here, right? We're going to have to kind of fold some things in together because we don't need as much detail as the system is trying to give us. So what we're fundamentally talking about, right, is your faction in Blades in the Dark has a tier, and it has hold. And hold is kind of what we're talking about. Hold is like how firm of a grasp on the area do you have? How much turf do you control? What's your status? How well regarded by the people around are you? And if we wanted to keep the faction as something that we were really interested in, then that would kind of cover what we are describing. And so we might just want to say we don't have a coin mechanic in this game, right? Yeah. Because the faction status does things where, like, with the local constables, we're +2, we're friendly. But because we've been seen with them so much, with like one of the local gangs, we are at -3. We are in all-out war because they think we are all informants. Because we keep creeping around at night and talking to constables and being seen doing it. And so we've sort of increasingly gotten ourselves in this hole.
Yeah, that's perfect. We did get from James, Karma would be a good title for it.
Oh, Karma would be good.
Reputation, influence in a transaction. So the currency you would gain is you get a certain amount of karma for completing the jobs.
I can't.
If you get 2 karma for the job, you can use it.
Thank you for subscribing, Cole, and then a bunch of other letters. So I'm gonna assume that Cole is fine. Thank you for subscribing. Okay, so karma.
So
all right.
Would we want to give like a numerical value? Sorry, we're in real game territory shit. Would we want to give a numerical value?
If they saw this title, DM Writer's Room, and they logged on and then they were like, why are they talking about game mechanics? Then they're lost. They got turned around somewhere. I don't know.
True.
There's some video.
Why are they doing math?
You can turn around and go find a clip of Better Call Saul in one little corner with Subway Surface in the other, and you're going to have a great time. So do we want to attach a numerical value to this idea that your characters are building up support or something?
So the numerical value would make it more like a currency. So if you go in to do like, something almost destined to fail, high risk, high reward, you do this thing, you're breaking into the castle to find his crypt so you know where to stab it later on. Do you build up like 3 karma for that? Or do you just get 1 every time you do a job?
Can I make a pitch that this should just be called plot armor? And that you need to build up a certain amount to go on the mission that should objectively fail?
That's pretty fun.
Or momentum?
I like that. Momentum is interesting.
Because I like the karma concept, but we've kind of tapped into it with hope instead of stress.
True.
I
think momentum is solid. Everybody's getting wrapped up in this momentum that you are carrying. You busted into the Count's castle and found his ill-gotten bed? That's crazy. People are going to side with you because of that. So, yes.
No.
So is there a number where we're like, this is high risk, you're going to get 3? Because you do that with coin in Blades in the Dark. I think that it's kind of
absolutely. I mean, you can spend 1 coin to get an additional activity during downtime. You can spend 1 to increase the result level of a downtime activity roll. You can get out of entanglements. You can do advance your crew's tier. And often the devil's bargains are things like, I'm going to spend some of my personal coin or the party's coin.
I lose momentum.
Yeah, losing momentum I think is a good way to get into that, because all of a sudden, like, everybody is driving towards the same purpose, and then you need to veer off to do one of these other things to engage, and sometimes it pays off and sometimes it doesn't. I'm trying to think of... It's hard to think of a good example of that happening somewhere in a way that is unfortunately a little distracting. I guess the closest thing, right, would be this. We're sticking to our Dracula metaphor, and I'm trying to think of a good example in there somewhere.
I've got one for losing momentum in Nosferatu.
Sure,
so
great.
Again, if you haven't watched Nosferatu yet, and you haven't watched any in the last 100 years of iterations or read the book,
it is just Dracula.
We're good. It is just Dracula. One of the characters' wife and children get killed at a certain point, and he essentially says, "I'm done." He won't continue on the quest anymore. He has lost all momentum. He loses his job as the burgomaster of the town. His momentum is pulled immediately away because he's gotten into this bad situation where everybody else gets killed. So he's lost momentum. He has no rep. he's not willing to continue in the story, etc. Full loss of momentum.
Oh.
He's dragged back in, but
See, I feel like that's more of a hopeless mechanic.
I agree a little bit. I see where you're coming from.
But I think that we are nailing something where these are both expendable. And I think that matters, and it makes sense they're going to cross over. So I do think you're describing something a little closer to hope, right? Maintaining your family is hope. I also like that because it makes hope work kind of like bonds in Delta Green, another game that we all really like. You spend your bonds in Delta Green to stay alive, but it means that you start to like abandon your family and your friends, and you might lose your job. So that's that. I think fundamentally momentum is much closer to luck. It's less direct, it's less one-to-one, and spending it will garner you success. I think I have an example. I think in Dracula, the first person to burn momentum is, Keanu Reeves. What's the name of the guy?
Jonathan Harker.
Is Jonathan Harker. Jonathan Harker spends momentum and stalls the adventure to learn more about the Count. Right at the beginning, he gets trapped. And I think that's how you narrate it. You would narrate your character getting trapped or stuck or basically having to like fall out of the action for part of it. And that is you spending momentum to gain something, saying, I'm going to make my character have a worse time to bring the whole effort up. That is how you'd spend momentum. And then you have, well, the other thing I like about that is in Blades in the Dark, you have your coin and then you have group coin. And I like the idea that you have individual momentum, which is my character gets into a dire situation. And then you can also spend group momentum, which is like, at the end of this adventure, we all get arrested by the normal police. We're going to burn points to succeed in the getaway, but then at the end, like, we literally all get locked up for a week. The bad guys' plans all get to progress, but we did break this one. Like, but this one didn't happen.
I got another momentum things to talk about. In Terminator 2. I want to say Terminator 2.
Another Tale in the Dark.
Judgment Day? What's Terminator 2?
No, Terminator 3 is Judgment Day, I think.
It might be Judgment Day.
It's Judgment Day, yes.
No!
But when they go to the
Rise of the Machines is number 3.
Yeah, when they go to the scientist's house, that basically is the first maker of the Terminators. He makes the software for the whole company.
A perfect example of burning momentum.
Yeah, they stop the whole story, go here, and they think about, what way can we influence this? And it fails because he's already put it in motion.
Yeah, he already did it.
I love that it's shitty writing. Burning momentum is making the book worse so that you succeed instead of fail. I think I actually really like that. And the other thing I like about it is, what's the other thing you spend coin in Blades in the Dark to do? To upgrade your hideaway. Mm-hmm. And so it makes perfect sense. You have to burn momentum to upgrade your defenses. You have to burn momentum to work on getting the ire of the monster to go down.
Get your sphere of influence wider. Yeah, you're not continuing the story because you're talking to the lady that owns the inn down the street, trying to get a deal cut. That shit does not rip at all. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I think we actually really do have the bones of it here.
Hell yeah.
Nice. All right. With that, we are a little bit over time, right? Or are we going to 9? We're going to 9. We have a little bit more time.
Going to 9. We got 15 minutes.
That's a good catch. You guys almost just got screwed out of some extra DM Writers Room time. Those now and in the future are shaking their monitors saying, there's 15 more minutes. You can't do this.
We want to define progress clocks, because we said that it's an ability, a thing that we don't want to get rid of. We certainly need to keep it. Forged in the Dark has danger clocks, racing clocks, link clocks, mission clocks. Do we want to really break down and define how those clocks work for like the C and B team?
Sure. I think that might be a good idea. So number one, we want to take the kind of progress clock mechanic and split it into the way that the 3 different groups are going to use it. So again, progress clocks in Blades in the Dark are just an easy way to keep track of how much time, how many actions you have left to try to perform whatever it is that you're trying to do. You can keep track of things like when the guards will be alerted. And in downtime, it keeps track of things like trying to secure exotic weaponry and like trying to create or invent something, which I think really fits into this genre. So the question is, They are super focused on heist mechanics. Now, 2 of these I can steal. Danger and racing. Right? Danger and racing makes perfect sense. You have a clock, the evil lieutenant has a clock, you're both filling them in and you're trying to succeed before they do. That makes perfect sense to me. Mission clocks and linked clocks. Linked clocks I think are kind of out because the B team and C team are kind of so separated out. So my question then is, number 1, how do clocks work differently for the A, B, and C team? And then number 2, is there anything else that we want to introduce that progress clocks are not already doing in Blades in the Dark? So, for the example that they give, let's see. A complex obstacle is a 4-segment clock. A more complicated obstacle is a 6 clock. A daunting obstacle would be an 8-segment, very hard to deal with clock. Now it advises you attach them to an obstacle, not to a method of dealing with it. So it would be interior patrols. It would be the tower. It wouldn't be sneaking past the guards or climbing the tower. It would just be, we need to get to the top of the tower. That is our clock. Now, simple objectives, it says for the most part, just sort of don't negotiate. So my main question is, how much it treats it as an extension of complication. We talked about it earlier, and I saw it more as an extension of danger. Right? Danger clocks is one of the options alongside a bunch of the others. So I think danger clocks is something that I think this game is going to deal with a lot of. More so than it is going to deal with a lot of the others. I think that the other ones are going to work pretty much as planned. Like a normal one, a normal complication clock to just keep track of you trying to do something, I think doesn't need to be changed much. My only question would be, how many pie slices do you get depending on which team you are? And do we want to use this as any way to like track the number of actions the C team has? And that's the thing I really can't make my mind up on. Do we want to say that like there is a special kind of clock for the C team that is, you have 6 segments, you can only do 6 things, and then the mission is over? Or did we want to leave that more to player interpretation?
I kind of like the idea of limiting it, because the B team can kind of go long. I don't ever want the C team going long. The C team is always doing something that is in your face right now, and it's going to build in danger immediately. I could see a 6-segment clock being like, you did an action, you failed an action, so you burned another one, then you do one, and then by the end of it, if you don't get out of there, mission accomplished, the monster's going to kill at least most of you on that team. So you want to get out of the situation as the C team before the clock is filled. Like, if you only get 4 actions deep, and you see, like, we haven't done it yet, are you gambling that 5th action? Are you gambling on that 6th action? Because who knows, you might turn around and the door's locked, and you've already burned 5 actions, the 6th one you're going to burn, and the monster's going to be there. You don't know what complication's coming next, so how far are you going to gamble the C team, is my thought.
I think that's good. Call it like the Doomsday Clock.
Yeah.
Okay. 4 segments, 6 segments?
I think 6.
Okay.
I think 6 gives you a little bit more flexibility.
Yeah, I think that's something that will also... It will probably change when we play test.
Yeah.
That's
It's
not
real
hard
finicky.
to give a number to.
That's very
without
true.
trying.
It's also going to really lean on the improv skills of the crowd to be like, this isn't just keeping track of one element of what is happening. You just have 6 tries, and you need to narrate it in a way that, sort of delivers on that promise. Okay. So, are they the only ones that have that sort of... So they are... I assume C-Team is the only one that has, like, a doom clock. Like, you need to get it done. This is the framework you need to get it done in. Great. Mm-hmm. So now, in our other ways that these are used, right, we have things like racing clocks to keep track of 2 competing groups trying to do the same thing. We have linked clocks where you are... where it's like, this clock fills. Once it's filled, we're on to a new clock that is like nested within it. So it would be like, the guards are alerted, and then there's a new one that's like, you are trapped. There is no way out.
I could see linked clocks being more of a positive thing for the B team, where it's like clock 1 is locate the book. Once you've located the book, then you can unlock, secondary objective, discern the meaning of the tale, and then final objective, get the secret information. And that wouldn't necessarily be something that's happening like in media res when you jump to the B team. That would be like they have a research project.
Downtime.
The B team's on that when we're not. Yeah, that's their downtime, and it's always a link clock. It's finding information and finding more information from that, building upon it, and always having a link clock going, a la research project.
Yeah, for the research group, I was thinking of, I don't know how we do it, but like a clock that fills up almost to a success.
Yeah, exactly.
And
I think
that's
that's
what I was thinking.
yeah.
So the link would go to the success, and then you get to then move on to the next. What's the world building game that we play sometimes, very rarely, where you're, you come up with one idea, you draw a card, and it's like the 3 of diamonds means that
A Quiet
the
Year.
feast doesn't go. A Quiet Year. A Quiet Year has those clocks for completing tasks, and I'm kind of pulling from that. It's really similar.
Okay, so I like that. So what I mainly like about this is we're taking the clock idea and we're using it to simplify the B and C teams. The C team is just a danger clock that also gets to talk. The B team is mostly linked clocks that get to help you in other moments. The A team is just going to function through these as normal. Okay. Yep. With that,
Nice.
let me look through. Let's see if there's any other core mechanics that we've missed. And by the way, if you are listening to this right now, give Blades in the Dark a try. The SRD is up for free. You're going to have to come up with your own playbook, which is going to be rough. But I think that the bare bones of that is something that you can do. So, vices, obviously, we aren't going to cover as much. Actions and attributes would be tied very closely to playbooks, so we should probably do that next time. I don't think we're going to come up with all of our playbooks in 8 minutes.
Nah, we can do it.
I bet we could. It would just be bad when we were done.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and I see a few others. So number 1, like when you become hopeless, because we have stress and trauma. I think obviously it would be like hope and hopelessness or hope and despondency. What negative effect do you get when you are rendered completely hopeless? I think would be another one. For them, they give cold, haunted, obsessed, paranoid, reckless, soft, unstable, or vicious as what you can take. So probably something similar is what we would interact with there.
I would call it despair when you've hit that level.
Sure. I think that I will note that down. I think that isn't something that we need to super go down in right now, because I think it's going to go largely unchanged. Some of this, there's quite a bit of this that's just, I just don't think we're going to change it. And so we don't really need to go over it. Like the position and effect. Yep. I just like those. I think that's fine. For those of you who don't know, when you are playing Blades in the Dark, your effect range, where is it here?
Even consequences and harm, like this is it, impaled, broken leg, electrocuted, drowned, like all those things work.
So you have a great, standard, or limited is your effect. Something can be done to great effect, or it can be done to standard effect, or it can be done to limited effect. And then things can be controlled, which means there's really no risk to what's going on. They can be risky, which is where most things are, where it's like there is tension there. Or it can be desperate, which means that this is unwise and you are backed into a corner. And you are constantly sort of shifting up and down, going from risky to desperate, back up to risky, up to controlled, back down to desperate. You are constantly sort of playing that game of tug of war up and down. And I don't think that really needs any work. Likewise, armor, coin we've already talked about. Factions, we think we want to keep, right? Some version of that as you progress through your somewhat brief adventures. The crew is something we kind of need to tackle next time. The score has been replaced by, the tale, or what did we had another, the chapter. I think that works very well. The engagement role is something we kind of need to take a look at. All right. I actually do think that we are pretty much good to go here. I think we might, for the first time in a minute, we got 5 minutes. We should try to do a bit.
Let's do a pop culture character creator.
Let's do a pop culture character creator. So for those of you who don't know, first of all, thank you so much for tuning in for this part of what we've just wrapped up on taking care of this. We have a tentative title of Tales in the Dark for our game, and we have a good idea of how it has shifted focus. It's more about these teams working together and trying to keep hope alive while you go on this increasingly dire struggle, trying to take down this terrible monster. And you are constantly giving up momentum and hope to try to win this fight back and forth. So I think we're headed in a really exciting direction. Next time, I assume we're going to be taking a look at the different actions and abilities and the sort of playbooks that attach to those. Seems like our next logical step. But for now, we're going to play Pop Culture Character Creator, where Spencer picks a random pop culture person, and then we try to sort them into a Dungeons & Dragons class.
Whoever has dice in front of them, roll me D100.
I do. Let's see what we've got here. Let me get a D100. I couldn't find my percentile die. 24. Oh no.
All right, we got a big one today, boys.
Oh no, he's laughing.
Number 24 is, in fact, the big yellow man himself, Homer Simpson. Now, sort of character creation-wise...
Yeah.
Okay. I've got one. Berserker Barbarian. He chokes the shit out of his kid
yeah, he does.
all the time. And he's just lost in rage when he does that. So, Barbarian, I think, fitting.
I'm going to go with a slant approach. Very similar. Drunken Fist Monk.
Ooh, drunken. Yeah, drunken.
Because he's grappling. He's grappling.
Yep.
And also, I think
beer.
we both tapped into that like low intelligence class where like you don't really need a lot of side hustle on that. I don't know how wise Homer Simpson is, but you know.
He's got some wisdom there. You know, do it for her on the sign in front of his job so he stays there.
There you go.
There's some wisdom.
I very much like the drunken monk. So I want to give him a little extra bit because of the job. I'm throwing a little bit of artificer in him. Not a good artificer because he works at a nuclear power plant.
The idea of Homer Simpson being a level 10 artificer but with 6 intelligence is pretty powerful. I kind of dig that.
I feel like what we're looking at is a level 2 multi-class Drunken Fist Monk and Artificer. Drunken Fist, I think that's level 3. I don't even know how the new rules work, so we'll ignore that. He's level 3 Drunken Fist, level 1 Artificer. He will never be a higher level than that. And I think we can call it there. Good session, gang.
Pretty solid. Thank you all so much for listening. This has been DM Writer's Room, a show where we demystify the DMing process by coming up with monsters, magic items, dungeons, and occasionally rule systems live. I think that these are really interesting, and I think the other thing I like about it, I don't think there's a lot of shows out there that are delving as deep into the rules and rule creation as we do, and so I think that that's, I really enjoy talking about it in this way where we can, hear from other people and get some feedback as we kind of work through. You can catch 3 streams on Foolhardy Press. They all start at 7:30, so 7:35, usually within that little window there. On Sundays, you can catch the music shut off right at the worst moment. On Sundays, you can catch Game Masters, Masters of Games, a show where we play games that we have either already mastered or that we feel like we need to. We have been playing Baldur's Gate 3, but unfortunately our schedules have been super messed up the last few weeks, so we've missed a few of those. We're delving back in either with that or something else. We've been chatting out, so look forward to what it is that we're going to be doing next. I'm not sure at this point if it's Baldur's Gate 3, just because some exciting things have been coming across our desks in the interim there. On Mondays, you can catch The Party Makes Things Worse, Song of the Reliquary. That is our actual play show that I'm running right now. It's going to be about a 15 to 20 episode season that we're going to do there. We're on episode 8 right now. We just recorded that. I think that was a fun downtime after a long sprint of panic for the crew. You finally managed to catch your breath, so tune into that, catch up on that while you still have the chance. And then, of course, on Tuesdays, you can catch DM Writer's Room, where we demystify the DMing process. You can also check us out on YouTube and TikTok, where Spencer makes all kinds of great stuff. We have a new video out on YouTube today about using genre to make your characters better and help you through difficult role-playing scenarios, so go give that a watch. Give that a like. Jump in the comments. TikTok, YouTube. Check us out on itch.io, where you can pick up our first one-page RPG, The Last Thanksgiving, a turkey-tinged tale of vengeance, where you throw eggs at each other to determine if actions succeed, and you try to keep Thanksgiving from ever coming again for your small cadre of turkeys. And check us out on Drive-Thru RPG, where you can see The Lich's Dollhouse, a level 1 adventure for Dungeons & Dragons, where you delve into a Lich's, literally, like, enchanted dollhouse of an evil lich called the Toy Maker to try to save the world. A very fun, silly one-pager that we came up with 100 years ago that you should go check out. We have some new stuff coming up in the next few weeks that we are pretty excited about, including a new one-page RPG that hopefully will be ready soon, and some other things that we are sort of working on, but you know, it's kind of a stressful time. I don't know if you've heard. Some weird stuff going on. So we are doing our best to endeavor forward in all of those things. And sometime in 2031, you'll be able to catch Tales in the Dark, a completed product. Sometime then,
It'll
sure.
be well polished at that
It'll
point.
be polished. No, I'm kidding. I'm sure at some point we'll have some functional version of this. Maybe a free-to-play feedback version that we'll throw up somewhere. Thank you all so much for listening. /watching/ however it is that you take our stuff in here. If you are watching on YouTube, like and subscribe and all that jazz. If you're watching on Twitch, do whatever it is that you do on Twitch. I think there's a bell.
Follow.
Is there a bell that you hit? Yeah.
I don't think there's a bell. There's a follow though.
Yeah, do that. Whatever it is that helps you not miss any of our stuff. Thank you all so much for watching. Peace out.
See ya.